Hi, everyone. My name is Dame D.C. Cordova, and I am so happy to be here with you on a Saturday. For those of you who are still asleep in the Asia Pacific region, thank you for tuning in. And we apologize that we're so early for you. But I just wanted to let you know that we're continuing our education with great Money and You graduates. And also to not only to introduce you to their work, but also for you to begin to learn more distinctions besides what you learned in Money and You and our other programs. And for those of you that have never met us before, thank you so much for joining us for the first time. So my name is DC Cordova. I'm CEO of Accelerated Business Schools for Entrepreneurs and the Money and You program. And I have been committed to the transformation of educational systems around the world and eradicate poverty and hunger for nearly 40 years. It's been a long, long time. I started very, very young. And I have had the opportunity to be in the back of many business schools for entrepreneurs and in a program called Money and You, where I have seen the different stages that really that entrepreneurs go through, that people who are wanting to learn about business, people who are extremely successful. And the one thing that I have learned is that there is a combination of the mindset of how they perceive themselves, how they perceive the world, but also having some very powerful tools. So today we're bringing you Burke Franklin, and I am going to have him introduce himself here in a minute. And Burke, whenever you touch anything, it goes to you. Thank you. So just give me 1 second, I'll get it to you. Thank you. So one of the things that I really wanted to say about Burke is that I met him quite a few years ago. I was trying to remember, maybe like 16 years ago at an event called CEO Space. And one of the things, it was extraordinary because he was one of the instructors and he was talking my language. He was talking about systems. He was talking about business plans. He was talking about the importance of really outlining, your goals and really how you're going to get there. And I'll let him speak more about that. But the thing that was so important for me was that in our business school for entrepreneurs, in 1980, we had the opportunity to meet a gentleman by the name of Jim Halcomb. And Jim Halcomb is the man who created the program evaluation review technique, a PERT chart that actually took men to the moon ahead of schedule for President Kennedy. That was his dream of President Kennedy. Of course, by the time we got to the moon, he was no longer around. But that was the first time that I got to really understand. It all came together for me in my head about the importance of tools, about how if you really want to grow your business, if you really want to create a legacy, if you really want to be wealthy and be rich and add value, whatever it is that you want to do, you must have the tools. So this is the man that's going to be sharing with us. So Burke, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you. Thank you.
Well, thanks, DC. I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate being here with you on the Hangout here it's a Saturday afternoon. I'm in Santa Barbara, California, which is about an hour and a half north of Los Angeles. So it's a beautiful place. And anyway, so great place to have a software business. I started in Silicon Valley some 27 years ago. And the whole idea was, I was helping people with businesses, and I've seen so many great ideas for companies. And I'm just going to presume that if you've got an innovation, I'm going to presume that you're here to help the world some way. People say they want to change the world. That's nice. Help it, change it, fix it, anything, all the above. I'm all for it. I would add that what I'm about is helping you build a business around this so you can afford to make your contribution to the world full time and make a profit at it, make a living doing it, and not have to go out and take some other job to make money so then you can make this business idea of yours work. So the way I started was, like many entrepreneurs, sometimes it seems like an accident. And meaning that, what I had a friend, he was selling an Apple computer at the time, wanted to buy a software application from my friend to help in their engineering department for designing, computers. And so they wanted to see his business plan. In those days, companies were very afraid that if you buy from a very small company, that company could go out of business. They'd be no longer around to support the product they bought from you. So Apple wanted to see his business plan to get a sense of, are you really going to make it? And I think really that's what business plans are all about. If you've really thought through your business, whether you've looked at it from the 50,000 foot level, the 10,000 foot level, at least looked into the whole thing, because as we know, a chain is as strong as its weakest link. And so you really can't afford to have part of your business not work, even though the rest of it works fine. It's like driving a car with one of the spark plug wires disconnected. It's just not going to run right. So I really wanted to help him succeed with Apple. I helped him write a business plan. And really what it was I think of it as it was a business plan for sure, but the different people in Apple wanted to see different aspects of his company. Just like today, if you went to an investor and the investor wants to understand, who are you? What's a nice person like you doing in a business like this? How's this business going to make money? All the things, like if you were to write a check to an entrepreneur, what would you want to know? And so the list gets quite long, actually, and there's a lot to it. But we helped that with a software template. That's what my business evolved into. So I helped my friend with his business plan to sell to Apple, which he succeeded with. And then other people came to me and wanted to know, well, how can you help me with my business? And I saw a lot of really, really great ideas, but the plan and the presentation they had to the investors they were just bad. I mean, you wouldn't invest in them. They didn't have the information. They just didn't say it right. They didn't know how to speak to most of the investors. They have MBAs from Harvard and Stanford and London Business School and other places, and they're operating at a very high level, and they want the people they invest money in to also have that kind of experience and education. And I think what we can do is we can help you or help anybody writing a business plan to immediately level up to these sophisticated investors and make a good presentation to get the money you need to build the business. And at the same time, I would say, how can you build your business without money? So we talk a lot about how you can build your business and the things you need to do or can do before you spend any money at all. And there's a lot of things you can do. Coincidentally, those things that you do will also make you attractive to investors. The other piece I would say in talking to investors and building a business today is that there's been a difference between what some would call a mercenary entrepreneur, which is I'm here for the money. It's all I want is I'm going to make money on this thing. I don't care what it is. Give me the money. Okay. On the other end of the spectrum is the missionary entrepreneur. The missionary is someone who's, cured cancer. They've created some device that will help people do something. And they almost want the investor to just give the money. Just give me the money so I can build my business. But they don't really think in terms of sustainability and profitability. Likewise, the mercenary doesn't really think in terms of what mission could they be doing, what would keep them in business that would be more motivating and inspiring than just the money. So I work to help people combine the missionary, add the mercenary bit, and the mercenaries add the missionary bit. So when you have a business, whether you're pitching for investors or otherwise, I'm helping you build a business that's sustainable, profitable, hopefully doing something good. And that's really where, and then my business over the last 27 years has evolved into a suite of software tools to help you with employee policies, marketing strategies, a lot of things. And now I've got a dashboard that integrates everything. It's all under businesspowertools.com. And DC, where do you want to go from here? That's no problem.
Not so brief intro. I will keep leading you through this. Thank you. This is one of Burke's first hangout. I mean, you've done a couple before. And this is our first solo trip. He's a pilot too. So one of the things that just so you understand, and for those of you that may be in the United States right now watching this, you need to know that my organization is very global. So there's people that are going to be watching this in Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, Brunei, Cambodia, Thailand. Let me see, what am I forgetting? Hong Kong, Taiwan, throughout China, because we do have graduates there that speak English. I don't know if you know this, but China has 10 million people that speak English. That's quite a market. And then all across India, of course. So one of the things that I just wanted to do is I wanted to clarify, particularly for my graduates and our audience in India. He was talking about something that's really close to you, which is missionary, missionary, mission driven. And then, of course, mercenary. That's the word. He was saying it a little fast, so I'm just going to say it. So mercenary is a person that just does whatever for money. And sometimes, a lot of times that word was referred to people that were military.
Guns
So,
for hire. Yeah. Guns for hire.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they kill or they run guns for profit. So one of the things that what we do is we're not here just to promote Burke's programs. That's not at all. I mean, we want you to learn about it. But what we want you to do is we want you to have an understanding of what are some of the steps, what it takes for someone to really create a business plan or begin to get clear. And here I'm just going to do a little bit of teaching because this relates to how I use business plans. So when I first heard about them was at the first business school for entrepreneurs, which I attended, which my mentors, Marshall Thurber and Bobby T. Porter, created in 1978. And I was a student there. I was coming out of the legal field, and I was looking for my next career. And so we were studying in that particular school, we were studying a lot of what they call cases, business cases from Harvard Business School. It was a real business school, what we were doing for 6 weeks. And what we would do is we would dissect these particular companies. And it was really interesting because my self-esteem began to really grow because I understood from my legal days and my business background that I had learned there and from also having been an entrepreneur, I understood the business part. But then there was another piece that I never knew about, which was the personal part, was the self-esteem, the deservability. What am I really worth and all this and that. And all of a sudden I began to find out that when you combine the two, it actually empowers and supports a greater vision. So I mentioned Mr. Jim Halcombe. He actually always spoke that a PERT chart, you have to, and I'm going to have my buddy Randy Kraft do another Google Hangout with me. He did one a long time ago. We'll have him do another one again because he and Burke are good friends and they love each other's systems. And a PERT chart talks about, and a business plan does too, about looking into the future. We're going to work 5 years ahead of time, 10 years ahead of time, whatever it is. And then you're going to work backwards on all the things that need to be done, which Burke is going to be covering here in a minute. And so many of the things. He couldn't possibly go through it. It's quite extensive. But one of the things that occurs is that when you do a business plan, and I recommend to everyone that's starting to be an entrepreneur, that you do at least one. The exercise is absolutely magnificent. So I did one after I became partners, 50% partners with my mentors. What I did was I created a business plan, and I'll never forget it. It was 1980. And I did a PERT chart that was working along with a business plan. And it was about building my business to 50 cities. Now, at that time, I can't remember. I think we were only in 2 cities, okay? And it wasn't even quite my business yet. I hadn't quite inherited it yet. I didn't inherit it completely until a few years later in 1985. But there were 50 cities, and I'll never forget because I didn't write down 50 cities in the United States. Thank God. But I actually just wrote 50 cities, and I didn't think beyond the borders of the United States at the time. I was only like 29, 30 years old. I just thought nationally, and I thought the name Money and You National was a huge name. And what ended up happening, I'll never forget when we hit the number of 50 cities, which were around the world. And I just thought, oh my God, my PERT chart, my business plan came up. And what happened for me was that from the beginning, I began to plan that I was going to sell this business. I have never sold it. I have had the opportunity to do it, but I have not done it. And so what it did, it created this mindset of creating royalties for me, of creating passive income. And a lot of times people think you have to have a franchise, you have to be part of another big company. Well, I proved to myself, and if anybody else was interested, that I could do a licensing model. So when I began to ask all these different questions, then I began to get clear. I remember hearing this thing about business models, business model. What is your business model? So the clarity that began to come out of that, and by the time I inherited all the work and my mentors went on to do other work, Bobby DePorter is a top teen educator, supercamp.com. Marshall Thurber is a high-level consultant. And so they went on to do other things. And I had this beautiful intellectual property, this beautiful work, and I just wrapped around it an organizational structure that allowed for it to grow at the level that it has now. And so when I talk about systems, I talk about a lot of different kind of systems. As you learn about me, you will see I have a manual called Money Making Systems. This is a little bit different. And that this is also systematizing your business. And from now on, if you're a serious entrepreneur, if you really want to create wealth, you want to create a legacy, long-term financial gain, and become rich and wealthy, you must think systems. I want you to say the word systems at home. Just say it wherever you're watching this, systems is at. So later, and just to fast forward a little bit more, when I went through my financial crisis in 97 and 98, for those of you in the Asia Pacific, you all remember those horrible years when Asia Pacific came to its knees. I came back to America because I'm a global entrepreneur. And I began to build my business in the United States, right here in the same home. I've been here for 30 years in San Diego. And one of the things that my mentor, Bill Gold, who is I won't tell you his background, just know that he created the health industry. He created the Good Earth restaurants, for those of you that may remember those, and sold it through the support of Marshall Thurber to General Mills for an outrageous amount of money. He had a business plan. So he said, I want you to do a business plan and consider selling this to Michael Milken, who was buying a lot of different educational companies. He had bought a little company for, I think, $2 million. That was like a profile company. And just imagine how much mine would have been worth. So for nearly 18 months, we worked on a business plan. And it's so interesting because at the end, I decided not to sell it, but that business plan has literally kicked in almost metaphysically. So what I have today is what I wrote down. And it was so fascinating for me to see that creation of that. So that's the big picture for you. This is why I want you to understand. And if you're getting ready to turn off this Google Hangout, I want you to know, hang in there, because with the information now that I think that Burke can share with us, it can be of so much value for you. So hopefully I sold you on the idea. Now, Burke, if you can share with us, because when I went through your system, I won't go into the next conversation yet, but when I went through your system just in the last year, I was blown away. You know, the detail that you have in there, and it was almost like a big banquet, and I could choose what was it that I needed for mine.
Right.
So can you explain the main areas that an entrepreneur needs to start looking at in writing a business plan or beginning the idea of creating a big business?
Yeah, there's many places where investors look. Of course, a lot of investors just want to see the numbers, But I would say really the starting point is who needs your product or service? Who are they? Why? Are they in pain? Is it pain that they want relief for? Is it something that's a toy, something that's fun? I saw something this morning where people were riding their suitcases through the airport. It's like a new thing. So anyway, so is it really a crucial thing? The question really becomes, how many of these people in the world are there who have this interest, the pain, the desire, whatever it is? Because you need to quantify for business purposes, how big is your customer base? And then you want to segment your customers to say, like, either by age, by technology, by geography, by a certain usage of your product. I think of boat anchors. I don't know why boat anchors come to mind, but you'd have fishing boats and sailboats and power boats and tugboats. So you have a different market segment for each one of those, and you probably sell them or market them a little differently. So there's that idea. So investors can see it, and okay, I've got these different market segments. Then how do I reach them? Are there magazines I can advertise in? Are there blogs? Are there ways, mailing lists I can buy? Can I target them through LinkedIn or through Facebook or some social media? How do I reach these people? I think also, but
just give me 1 second. We need to clarify something here. Burke's languaging is on investors. We're going to lose people that don't want to have investors in the company.
Right.
Especially in Asia. In Asia, they don't, some are, but a lot of them don't. They have family money, they have their own money. So he's not just talking about investors now. Remember, I pretended that I was going to sell my company. So it's for you to have clarity. The process is going to get, the questions that he's asking, don't get stuck on the investor part. I know my audience, Burke, please forgive me.
Well, I was going to say, you are the investor. You are your own, you're spending your own money. So, I mean, I think of the investor, but I think of, that's because I talk to so many customers, that's what they think, but really it's your money, whether you're going to use your own credit cards, your own life savings, you're going to go to somebody in the family and ask them to loan you the money, give you the money, whatever. You're going to explain to your spouse, hey, I'm spending our life savings on this idea. You need to be that sophisticated investor and look at your business idea as much as they're betting somebody else's money on your idea. For them, it's making money and looking good. For you, it's your life saving. It's your legacy. It's your dream come true. It's the thing you want to deliver in the world. It's something you're passionate about. I just want to help you be smart about building a business around the passion about that, how you spend your own money, invest your own money. I was going to say you need to be a ruthless investor in your own deal, but ruthless seems evil and heavy-handed. But really, you really need to think about how you're spending your money. And there's also not just spending the money, like throwing the money at your business. What do you put the money into first? How do you build this business so as it evolves and develops, you haven't spent a lot of money up front without thinking it through. You thought you've saved money. I started a business a long time ago. I borrowed $5,000 from my grandmother, and it was a do-it-yourself used car lot. That sink in. The idea, it's kind of like I rented a parking lot in town, and I invited people to bring their cars down to sell them. And I ran ads in the paper and all that, and so I borrowed $5,000 to set up the business. I spent it all, and then about 2 months into it, I realized I needed to make some changes because I really didn't think through the possibilities, and I didn't have the money to make the changes. And that was, I won't say tragic, but it was difficult to do that. So if you think about the sequence of events and what you do first, how you test a few things. I mean, I think it's a Chinese proverb, in fact, that says only a fool tests the water with both feet. So, I think of sticking your toe in the water. Which toe do you stick in what water? I guess I want to say, how do you build this business? So first part is how you think about it. So who are the people who will buy your product or service? How many of them are there, and how do you reach them? I think that's probably the fundamental beginning point. And then who are you? Do you have the knowledge and the skill and the expertise to do this business? If not, who do you know, and how do you build a team? I think that's what you want to do. You really have to have a team of people who can bring in the expertise and the connections, and maybe not money, to help you do this. So who are the people? And then you've got to have agreements with these people, because one of the issues is you may need to replace one of them. How do you do that graciously? How do you do that where you can replace people on your team where everybody preserves their dignity, everybody saves face, and then that's a really careful, important, conscious thing one needs to do, is choosing your team carefully and also providing the ability to replace them in the future if necessary. How do you think about that? So that's important.
So one of the things, for those of you that have been studying with me for a while, the areas, I'm going to debrief it a little bit. So we go through, in our business school, we talk about sales and marketing. Those are two top areas. So that is what Burke has been referring to. And he also referred to the next area, which is people and organization. And, how you're going to deal with people. And remember, in order for you to align people, you have to have a purpose together, that you get aligned behind, a mission, and then, of course, clear rules of the game, including exit agreements that those of you that have studied with me know how big I am about exit agreements. And then, of course, he also referred to what is the valuable, the final valuable product that people are going to be willing to pay you as opposed to someone else and will want to follow you and your product and service. He also referred to a thing that we call the accelerated business success model. You learn from masters, you learn from mentors. This is what I'm constantly doing in all my social media. If you go to my Facebooks, and now I discover Facebook Live. And so I'm bringing in different information. We'll be bringing in new masters, aside from all the Google Hangouts that I love to do. So now you learn from masters, people that have mastered an area. This is an area that this man really knows well. And he has it all systematized. I mean, it's unbelievable. You download this thing and you just have to take a deep breath, and it's fantastic to go over with your teams because you're going to be training your teams. I mean, it's like an online course on how to build a business. It really is. And so now you have to create a niche. For those of you in Australia and New Zealand, they correct me there all the time. I see niche, and they have no idea what I'm talking about.
That's California's niche.
Yeah, California's a niche. In Asia is a niche.
We say,
and so
we just say it to be rebellious. It's just, we're not going to say niche because they say it on the East Coast, and we're not going to do that. So sorry.
Anyway, so you have now a niche, and what you, in that particular piece is, you want to have a niche because of marketing. That's what you want to do. It's only for marketing. I mean, because you have to differentiate yourself from others. And then you have, of course, to do that, you leverage that. And this is the interesting thing that, and I have really learned how to listen. So Burke, I'm translating for you a little bit. As you're talking, I'm learning again from you. And part of it is that when he's talking about investors or your family or your spouse, it's like you really need to enroll people and enroll yourself on how you're going to leverage whatever money you're going to spend. And this is in our Money and You program. It's really interesting because it's an entrepreneurial program, but there are a lot of employees that think that they want to leave their jobs and become entrepreneurs. So what my program does, and of course Burke's tools do, they do the same thing but completely different, which is to get you really clear if you really want to be an entrepreneur, because not everyone was born an entrepreneur or being discovered an entrepreneur. You cannot make someone an entrepreneur. You're either born or you are discovered. You discover, other people go, I think you're an entrepreneur. You should really check this out. I mean, I recognize them. I recognize little kids that are entrepreneurs immediately.
Well, I would add that you could find yourself becoming an entrepreneur. I've seen employees turn into entrepreneurs, but really it's an inspiration. Like you have this idea, you've invented something, you see a problem and think, wow, I could fix that. Or I can work with some people to fix that. I mean, even rock and roll stars are entrepreneurs to a certain extent. Like I hear this music in my head. I've written this song. I want to record it. I want to play it. I want to perform for the world. That's a form of entrepreneurship. So it's something I think where you're inspired to do something, build something, make something happen, lead people, go somewhere, and that's where you want to do it. You're the one to do it. So sorry, DC, but go ahead.
Oh no, I love that. See, and that's what I call discovering. We're saying the same language. You reminded me of the Jessicas. There's Jessica Alba. Oh my God, her company, what, 1 or 2 billion? And Jessica Simpson, everybody thought that she was a dumb bimbo, and they're giving her father the credit. I mean, of course, he's the one that got her started. But these are the brilliant Jessicas. They have $1 billion industries. Then you have the Kardashians. Look, I have to tell my Kardashian story here. I don't think you've heard it. It's like, I was wondering who in the hell are these Kardashians? I just remember Kardashian from the O.J. Simpson case, which of course I watched thoroughly because it was done in the same building where I used to work. And I remember Kardashian, that was the name of the attorney. So then I went to look at the show, and it was like the worst show on the planet. I mean, they were half an hour, they were talking about this new booklet thing that she had found. The whole conversation was about this little booklet thing or a scrapbook. It was a scrapbook and what to do with the scrapbook. And when I turned off the TV or changed the channel, I thought, oh my God, I know what this is all about. This is like, people watch this to see a bunch of rich people acting completely stupid, like they feel really good about themselves when you turn off the TV. But then I thought, no, it's more than that. Let me take a look at this. And I did some research and found out this freaking Kim Kardashian is one of the best saleswomen. She is a freaking entrepreneur. So is her mother, Kris. And all of a sudden, you just saw these entrepreneurs. And then, of course, the whole act is that they're stupid. They don't know what they're doing. And that by accident, they got there. And you need to know, all of you watching this, that there's no accidents in business and in success. Everything has been designed. Somebody has done a business plan. Somebody has done a program called Money and You. Somebody has decided that they're going to get clear on sales and marketing, people and organization, money and finances, and their niche, the business plan. They learn from masters. They create a niche. They leverage that niche through systems and an aligned team that then creates synergy and creates results. So as you begin to see all the different parts that I'm bringing here, we have a tendency, what we do in Money and You, we do the contextualization and the clearing of blocks. And then, of course, we bring in the business success model. People get very clear about the business success model. But now, what I wanted you to do, Burke, is I wanted you to just go a little bit more almost into, not that I want you to read off of your system, but I just want you to just kind of cover some more details on what it is an entrepreneur needs to look at that I know are in your system, but I want them to learn it now.
Well, what comes to mind next is marketing, really, is how are you going to reach your customers and sell to them? And I think a lot of marketing today is all social media. While that's great and social media is good, there's a lot of traditional marketing. Well, traditional, I almost don't like anything traditional just by definition. But nevertheless, direct mail, whether you're sending a postcard out or a letter out to people, today with everybody doing electronic, your email and electronic forms of promotion, getting something in the mail is almost unique in itself now. So now it's kind of circled around where you get these direct mail pieces with a mini catalog in the mail. I mean, you could it depends on what you're doing. And so I think of what we do in the templates is, offer all the possibilities. That's first, all the possibilities, like you said, like a buffet. And then your job is simply to edit it, because I find that it's easier to edit than write from scratch. There's other business plans out there that will give you a blank page that says describe your marketing here, but there's nothing in it. It's just a bucket where you're supposed to put it in a sequence of pitching investors, and that's not what I want to talk about. This is really about reading all the bits about marketing, all the different kinds of marketing you could do. Should you, invest in one of these signs on the side of the road? That's outdoor advertising. In many businesses, that makes absolutely no sense. In some businesses, it makes all the sense in the world. So, but if you at least go through all these different marketing concepts and think about it, would this work for me? And then from there, you choose out of the, let's say, 20 or 30 possibilities, you narrow it down to 4 or 5, and you coordinate them. So everything works together. So anytime someone sees your business on the billboard and then gets an email from you and a postcard in the mail, it all talks to the same message and has people either come into your store, buy from you. What I noticed way back, this is an aside, but I remember driving from Silicon Valley into San Francisco, which is about a 40-mile drive. And I must have counted 25, 30 billboards, the outdoor advertising, and they all had web addresses on them. And I thought, how stupid is that? I'm driving along in my car. How am I going to A, remember that web address, B, write it down without killing myself, or C, how am I going to look it up and see who this company is? I thought that was completely crazy. So, you want to think about, if you're going to use an outdoor advertisement, put a phone number on it and say, call for a brochure. Everybody's got a mobile phone. You can call up while you're driving and say, yeah, I just saw your billboard on the highway here. Would you send me a brochure? You can do that. Anyway, it's just kind of how it's used. And so to think through, just the practicality of some of these things. And these are some of the questions if you were up presenting to investors, and I've gone to a number of these meetings where people pay thousands of dollars to stand up and give an investment pitch to a room full of 20, 30, 40, 50 investors, each one of whom could write you a check to fund your entire business. But again, that's you, but the questions they ask are the same intelligent questions you should be asking yourself. And so, this is one of them in marketing. They're going to ask, well, wait a minute, you're running a business like this. Why aren't you advertising like that? And the last thing you want to say or think is, oh, I never thought of that. And so that's where I think we can help you is we've thought about that, and we let you actually read what we're talking about. We actually give you the words to use. You just edit them. Put your company name automatically fills in. I just want you to, at least from a 10,000 foot level, consider the different marketing tools, the different marketing channels, the different marketing ideas, the different marketing methods that you could possibly use. So you read 30 of them and you pick 5. But I suspect the 5 you pick after reading the 30 is going to be much more useful to you than maybe the first 2 that your friends say you should do, or the first 2 or 3 that come to mind. You really could put together a holistic marketing campaign that would make a lot of sense, not necessarily cost you a lot of money, and would be much more effective than just trying to throw all of your money behind, let's say, certain kind of social media advertising. Does that make sense, DC?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And I was going to say, that is what you want to do. For those of you that may never connect, and remember, you can always connect. It's businesspowertools.com, and you just connect and just say to Burke, I saw your Google Hangout, or you can send me an info@moneyandyou.com, and you know how to connect with me. Most people find me, and I'll connect you guys. But for those of you that may not connect with Burke, the biggest thing about me bringing you him is that I want you to start really thinking holistically. There are many, many illusions about money, about business. And of course, I want you to attend the Money and You program, whether you do it in Southern California, you do it in Australia, in Malaysia, in India, or you do it in any, if you speak Chinese, you do it in any of our Chinese markets. And you can go to moneyandyou.com, and at the bottom, you will see the different cities that we're in. What I want you to know is that there are so many tools out there to help you get very clear on how to succeed in business. Don't go on the trial and error. That will take you too long.
There's an infinite number of ways to do something wrong. There's a handful of ways to do something right. If you focus on, okay, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, I'm going to try and fail, and trial and error, you really want to look at what people have done that works. And like I said, there's probably a handful of ways to succeed, or that's, and an infinite number of ways to fail and waste all your money. That's where we want to help you, because, well, we presume what you're doing is going to save the world.
Well, the acceleration that's happening right now in business, and the brilliance, we're talking now, it's really interesting. I'm sitting here on a table, and I remember in 1990 when I came back, there was a beautiful young man who sadly was killed in a car accident because he got a little bit cocky. His name was Corey Goodell. I don't know if you remember
I
Corey,
did.
but Corey was one of the first young people to make a huge amount of money in internet marketing. I mean, huge. And we sat right here at this table because he had grown his business so huge and he was going absolutely insane with the management piece, with how do you really keep going? How do you really keep growing? And he wanted to hire me for an outrageous amount of money. And I was tempted because I had just had my big learning experience in Asia. But like I told him at that time, you know, I was in my 40s. And one of the things that I said to him, I'm too old. I'm too old for your team. What's the average age? And they were like 22, 24 years old. I said, they will automatically see me as their mother. So I said, let me empower and support you and get you started. I'm going to bring a bunch of masters to you. And what was so sad was that he got really busy. And then within a year, he had this horrible accident I just have to share that story. He rented for his birthday this big racing track and got one of the best racers on the planet to take him around in the wrong car. It was really the racer's responsibility. That should have never taken him in the car that they went into. And of course, both of them were killed in front of all the friends and pregnant wife. And so I never forgot him because he got to a place that he had created such a beautiful niche. He had really built something up, and then he ran up against everything. So it's either going to be from the beginning that you're going to set up your business that is systematized, or then you're going to have this total success. And Edward Deming, one of the people that we talk about in the Money and You program, his teachings, he used to have a saying called growing, growing, gone. But you remember this. It's called growing, growing, gone. Because he used to say that if you're not set up for growth, you are going to disappear. And this goes along with my teaching on, are you in the process of making the money, keeping the money that you managed to make, or growing the money that you managed to keep? All three of them will require for you to have different elements in place. But the contextualization, what we call in Money and You, the fruit bowl of business, the fruit bowl, the context, the framework that's going to hold all of this. And so what we're talking about, and this master that I'm bringing you, Burke, that has spent nearly, over 3 decades in developing this. He knows what he's doing in regards to do it, and just follow it. And connect with him. I think that he will give you consultations where you guys can spend 30 minutes talking, and this for me is about opening up and expanding your consciousness. This is my job. My job is to expand your consciousness and to go, yes, I need to create DC's new definition of wealth, which is to have access to cash, access to resources, to people, to expertise, and to people that will make it really fast for you. This is going to be what we call, in China, it's called quiet, fast. Quiet, fast, fast, fast. So one of our sayings that we have is that, we go for it, we fail fast, we correct fast, we pick ourselves up fast, and then keep going. So systems will really prevent this from making too many mistakes. So is there anything else you would like to share with people?
Well, I want to say, as you say, fast, 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 well, that's all true. There's another side of that. The other side of that coin is slow, slow, slow. And I will take that out of the context of martial arts, the context of learning to play a musical instrument. I've been playing electric guitar now for 10 years. And when my instructor says, okay, here's a lick, or if you will, a riff on the guitar, go home and play this 1,000,000 times. So there's the repetition. But I learned that I could go home and play it 100 times fast and badly, or I could go home and play it 10 times very slowly and perfectly every time. And when I get in that groove of playing it perfectly every time, after a while, I can play that one way perfectly very fast. And so, and just like in martial arts, rather than throwing a kick or doing a move or something like that, or you're practicing, with a partner, you want to try the move slowly over and over and over again. Really understand the move. Where are your feet? Where are your hands? Where are you looking? What are you looking at? What are you looking for? All that kind of thing. How are your shoulders? Are you breathing? People hold you. So you want to think about. So once you get all this, you learn how to. You do it slowly, and you speed it up, and you don't go any faster than you do it perfectly. Now, there's differences in business. I mean, the other side out of the other side of my mouth in business. Sometimes you build the product, you ship it. You got to ship it. You can't wait forever, so it's just perfect. You do need to ship it and let your customers respond to you, and tell you what is important to fix next. But I just want to emphasize, kind of back to the idea of the benefit of that planning part, is to take the time to really understand what you're doing. It does seem like you might be moving slowly, but I think, and as Buckminster Fuller himself said, a mistake in the plan requires an eraser. A mistake in the field requires a checkbook. So if it's your own money you're spending, you really, I think, want to take, I'm not talking about taking a lot of time, just some, and just thinking about being conscious and going a little more slowly, being mindful about what you're doing, what impact it's going to have. One of the questions I ask, and it's always in businesses, who else is doing what you're doing? Who else are you competing with? And investors, you being the investor as well, who's the competition? But more importantly than that, I would say, for example, I ask the question, if you win, who loses? It's something to consider. So you want to think about, okay, I'm going to have an impact in the world. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to do something better. But are there forces that don't want you to impose on their success to something maybe not as well? So you want to think about that, and how are you going to maneuver? What is your strategy there? What would Sun Tzu do? How would Sun Tzu approach that? There's a lot to be learned there in the art of war. I'd like to have business not be thought of business as war, although there's lots of metaphors that it is. But I think the modern business really is more benevolent than some war. It's not an act of war. It should be an act of service. And so how can you offer this act of service if you positioned your business properly? Positioning meaning how customers perceive you. How do you fit in their mind? There's an excellent book called Positioning by Al Ries and Jack Trout, R-I-E-S, and Ries and Trout. But that's a book to read on that. If your positioning is right, then you're not going to have a war with somebody. You just naturally fit into the desires of your customers who have the problem you're here to help fix. They will naturally choose you because you've got the right stuff in the right place for them, and you're communicating to them. This all requires a little bit, I say a little bit, depending what a little bit means, but some thought, mindfulness ahead of time before you spend your money, spend your parents' money, spend your friends' money, and help you really build the business. I would say really what I'm trying to help you do is, rather than taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, which is actually 3 steps, take 1 good step forward and save the other 2, or whatever the money would cost for the other 2 steps. Because taking a step forward costs something, or 2 steps forward, taking 1 step back costs you as well, and it wastes the step going forward. So all that said, that's businesspowertools.com is my deal. But thanks, DC.
Thank you. Well, what I wanted to do was, I just wanted to say that you reminded me of something really important. There is a great business book. It's one of my top 3, and it's called Good to Great by Jim Collins. I love that book because it's small. My book, Access to Cash, and my book series, all my little books, they're all going to be small books until I write the big fat book about the story about money and you. That's going to be really fun. That's going to be the Money and You book story. That's going to be fun. It's going to be all stories. But one of the things that Good to Great talks about, the traits of a leader, and I think it's a type 4 leader. I can't remember the exact wording. So what it says is that a true leader is someone that can hold 2 completely opposing thoughts simultaneously. So what you experience in here is me sharing one thing, and then of course, then Burke is sharing another, slow, fast, but it's a combination of the two. And that's part of you being a leader, being able to take in all this information. And then yesterday, if you go to DC Cordova Friends, my in Facebook, just look for Dane DC Cordova. My regular page is just DC Cordova. My fan page is called Dane DC Cordova. And that particular page in there, you will see some, I did live video yesterday, and I was talking about money and family and about children. And I was talking about how to train children, how my mother trained me, and some other things. We got cut off by Facebook, so I had to do it again. So there's a couple of videos. Go ahead, you'll find them. And it's really worth watching, because in there, I went into some of the details about money and about systems, deservability, and then you just keep looking around, you will see on July 8th, I also did another conversation. So what I'm doing is that I'm wanting to show you the different aspects of business. I want to be your entrepreneurial portal. I was before Facebook came online, I had paid a consultant, a magnificent consultant, to create something like Facebook. It wasn't anything like Facebook, but the idea was like Facebook. I freaking adore Facebook from the minute that it came out. I mean, I dropped my whole platform and went to there because it was what I wanted. And then, of course, it gave me access to find graduates from around the world that I hadn't talked to in freaking 35 years. So exciting. So one of the things that I had wanted to create was an entrepreneurial portal where I could introduce you to a bunch of my good friends and to people that I have learned from and people that are constantly inspiring me. So like right now I'm developing a green business with my business partner, who is one of the world's leading solar architects. And, and we got one of your systems, one of Burke's system, and started going through it. I didn't quite create a business plan, because I'm looking for the partner that we're going to create the business plan with. I actually took aspects of it and created an overview of a business opportunity. And I actually introduced this document by saying, this is not a business plan. A business plan would contain blah, 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 blah. This is just an overview for you to see if you would like to look further into this opportunity. This is something that I created. This is something that you can create, but I did use this tool, Burke's tool, in order to support me, to also sound very intelligent, to let them know the key pieces of a business plan that I know that are missing in this overview. So the more genuine, the more authentic, the more that you can demonstrate to someone, because maybe you just need a partner that needs to come in with you and do this big business plan with you. But you have to be able to demonstrate your ability to be able to be wise, to be open-minded, to be educated in entrepreneurial matters, in global entrepreneurship. And more than anything else, for you to know your own blocks, your own deservability, the things that hold you back that may not allow you to be as successful as you are. So I really thank you for taking the time to spending nearly an hour with us. Remember, we are available to you. It's easy to find Burke Franklin. I think you still have room to make friends, right, on Facebook?
I think so. I'm not that popular. No.
Yes, you are. So you can make friends with them, let them know that you heard this Google Hangout, and connect with them, and I'll keep bringing you more wonderful masters. Last word, anything, Burke?
Good stuff, DC. I could go on all kinds of things on teaching and educating and talking about this, because I've got all these ideas. But let's leave it at that. We can come back for more and talk in the future. And I definitely recommend Money in You. It's one of those things where there's my favorite quote by Rumi, who says, "Your task is not to seek for love. Your task is to seek and find all the places within yourself that you've built blocks against it." And so that's as if to say, it's coming to you, stop blocking it, and find out where you're blocking. And I think that's where Money and You plays a big part. Between Buckminster Fuller's ideas in it and the ideas you brought to it that were built into it, the course. And it's about how do you, part of it, get out of your own way. Crazy enough, that seems to be one of the things I've seen people. I think people have great ideas, and they're just in their own way. And you think, well, I'm not in my own way. I beg to differ. I mean, I looked at myself over the last 37 years of doing workshops, and it's all been about places I've been in my own way. My choices that I made were coming from places of lack or something or scarcity, and if I looked at it differently or got out of my own way, I would ask different questions. I would pick up the phone and call a different person. Lots of things would have been different, and that's huge. I mean, it's you. At the end of the day, you are the spiritual leader of your business, whether it's just you or you have 1,000 people with you. You've got to get clear on who you are and what you're about and where you're going and why. And that goes a long way to your success.
Thank you, Burke. All right, everyone, have a beautiful weekend and a beautiful week for those of you getting started in the Asia Pacific region. Thank you so much, and we'll continue. And thank you. Aloha nui loa. Bye, everyone. Bye.